What's up, guys? At this point, it's been a week since Avengers Endgame has hit theaters, so I can finally give my full spoiler thoughts on the movie. If you haven't seen Endgame, what are you even doing here? Just go watch it. It's phenomenal. But in case you still want to hear my thoughts, I do indeed have a spoiler-free review in the box in the corner and in the link in the description below. Just check that out. I got you covered. No spoilers. But since there is a ton of spoilery goodness to talk about, let's just dive right in. No intro, no nothing. Ah, crap. This video is going to be like half an hour, isn't it? So starting off in my spoiler-free review, I did say from the opening scenes of this movie, you could tell that this, just from the tone alone, that this isn't going to be like any other Marvel movie you've seen. You see Hawkeye's family get dusted, you see Tony Stark basically ready to die, giving his final message to Pepper. So coming out the gate, you're like, oh man, this is definitely the Endgame. Good title there. So Tony Stark is about to float off into space, but then he's suddenly saved by Captain Marvel, aka Brie Larson. So once she brings Tony back to the Avengers facility and they're all like just chilling for a second trying to make sure Tony's okay, she's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go kill Thanos. And all the Avengers just look at her like, who is this chick? And Rhodey, you know, my man's Rhodey tried to let him know. Rhodey's like, listen here, new girl, we all about that superhero life here. Wait, who are you? Who you think you can just waltz in here and think you can kill Thanos by yourself? And this is the thing I hate first and foremost about Brie Larson in these Marvel movies, right? She so clearly juxtaposes the team morale and just the atmosphere the Avengers create. The Avengers are a family, they're a bunch of team players, but they also have their own problems among themselves, but you can really tell they all love and respect each other. Brie Larson just walks in here and thinks she can head up an 11-year legacy all on her own. She's so prissy, she's so uptight, she's so stubborn. She clearly thinks it's her against the world in Hollywood based on the patriarchy and such. And I'm not just talking about Captain Marvel here, I'm talking about Brie Larson in real life.
Is there any competition between the different sects, the different groups?
There's no competition for me because I'm the strongest, so it's just kind of like a different...
Oh, yeah, you should let her think that.
In case you didn't know, several reports surfaced from the set of Infinity War and Endgame, and that the rest of the Avengers cast really don't like Brie Larson. And that's because she's just as toxic on set and in interviews as she is in the movie.
I do all my stunts.
I did my stunts because I thought that that's what everyone did. And then
Tom Cruise over here?
No, I want to be the first me, not the next Tom Cruise. Thank you very much.
Wow.
I can make a whole video, and several others have, on everything wrong with this clip here, but we gotta keep this rolling. Let's stop talking about Brie Larson. The movie barely gave her any screen time, so I'm barely gonna give her the light of day in this review. So just like in the comics, after Thanos wipes out half of the universe, he just starts chilling in his farm, and then the Avengers, they bum rush him. They're like, okay, where'd you put the stones, dog? Thanos just tells him, I destroyed him. It was temptation after I did what I had to do. So Thor straight up axes this man's head off and just walks away. And then, of course, he returns the poetic justice. He's like, hey, I went for the head this time. What you mean? Having seen this movie 3 times already, it's really interesting to see the different theater reactions when Thor says, I went for the head. Because in a sense, it's a funny retort and a callback to Infinity War, but in the other sense, you can tell just by Thor's delivery and his face that he's completely broken. So it's extremely sad also, and you see the toll it's just taken on Thor's psyche, because it's all his fault. So the stones are destroyed, Thanos is dead, and we cut to 5 years later. That caught me off guard, I'm not gonna lie. All the Avengers are dealing and coping with their grief differently, and I really loved how the movie showed that how different of a place they're all in and all the extremes they're gonna go to when they're desperate. Hawkeye becomes his alter ego, Ronin. He has this sick fight scene in Japan, and I really love the dialogue and the subtitles when he was fighting the, Yakuza boss or whatever. They were very, comic book font. I really like that. I need my Hawkeye anime right now. So Hawkeye's in a pretty bad place. Tony is in the exact opposite. He's a family man now. He has a wife and a daughter, and those scenes were just so adorable with him and his daughter. It wasn't really unpredictable. I expected it because in Infinity War they teased several times that Tony and Pepper would be expecting a child. But it was still nice to actually see it play out. Seeing Tony Stark going from a billionaire, playboy, genius philanthropist to a selfless family man now, it's a really nice change. I loved what they were doing for the character. So after Ant-Man gets freed from the quantum realm because a rat stepped on the controls of his time machine, he gets chucked back into the present. He reunites with his daughter in a touching scene, and then he's like, yo guys, I was stuck in the past. 5 years have gone by, but it was 5 hours for me, so maybe we can use time travel to get everyone back. And that's when several people in the audience, including me, was like, oh no, they're gonna pull the time travel Ex Machina. This is gonna be great. Based on the overall premise and setup of this movie, I had my suspicions that this was gonna be a time travel heist-esque movie, and they confirmed pretty early on that's what it was, so I was like, okay, alright. It's been done a million times before, but let's roll with it. Let's see what they can do with it. So they get Tony on board eventually, although he initially refuses. But the thing is, he initially turns the team down, but he has a conversation with Pepper about whether he should go through with it, and that he's figured out time travel. And this was a really impactful scene for me because he basically tells Pepper he should stop and that he should go to bed. And Pepper in turn says, okay, you can go to bed, but will you be able to rest? Which was heavy foreshadowing because after Pepper's last words to Tony at the end, after he sacrifices himself, was like, Tony, you can rest now. The work is done. Both Tony and Pepper realize that he just can't help himself. Iron Man is who he's meant to be as a person, and he can't completely separate himself from that life as much as he wants to. He has a chance to do something for the greater good, so he has to put himself aside, and I really like that. That's such a great full circle character arc for Iron Man. So Tony decides he's on board, and now they're like, okay, we need to put the team back together again. And I love this montage because it's similar. It's just like a callback to the original put the team together montage from the first Avengers movie. Black Widow goes to get Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Cap, and Black Widow go to get Hulk, and oh my goodness, Professor Hulk is in the building. I really like this iteration of the character because he brings the strength and physical presence of the Hulk, but also the calm demeanor and the gentleness of Bruce Banner. I wasn't appreciating that dab, though, I'm not gonna lie. That was cringe. Speaking of cringe, Hulk and Rocky Raccoon go to get Thor, and my boy's not looking good. He got a beer belly now, his beard is all grown out and gross, and he's playing Fortnite. So, yeah. That's a thing that happens. In this first act, I also love every single scene between Tony and Steve because there's so much. For those who said Civil War had no stakes, I definitely disagree at this point because you see in all their interactions the weight and the consequence and the feud and the tension that's still there from everything that happened in Civil War. When Tony first gets back to space, you can tell just how bitter and broken he is specifically towards Steve because as in Age of Ultron, he told them he saw a vision and that they were going to lose, and that's exactly what happened. But 5 years passes, he gets a family, and he goes back and decides to help out the team because, as he says in the movie, resentment is corrosive. He respects Steve Rogers, but he also is acknowledging that our squabble aside, there's a greater good we have to take care of now, so I love the scenes between them. So Tony Stark figures out time travel within 5 minutes, and then he goes out to help out the team, and this is where the movie kind of takes a dip, as in when they had to explain the time travel mumbo-jumbo. See, they thought they were clever because they're very self-aware, and they reference different movies that deal with time, and they just say, yeah, you know how time works in those movies? General time-traveling rules, such as if you go back and you talk to your past self, that'll change the future. No, that just doesn't happen. Hulk flat out denies everything we know about time travel from pop culture, and they think that's okay. They think, alright, we tried to explain it, now you just gotta roll with it. But honestly, how they explain time travel, as in the branching timelines and everything like that, it just made less sense than the original pop culture rules of time travel to me. Which is something Hulk says himself. He's like, okay, it's time travel, either all of it is true, all of it is BS, or none of it is, you know? So it didn't even seem like he believed his own explanations of time travel. So they all huddle up and they figure out over a couple of days which teams are gonna get which stones, and it's a pretty cool montage of just them hanging out, figuring things out. But then when they get to how they're gonna obtain the reality stone, they hand the mic to Thor, and he has to give this mini PowerPoint presentation of everything that happened in Thor: The Dark World. It's really sad and funny at the same time to see Thor fallen from grace to this degree, just being some completely down on his luck, obese and everything. But the more I watch the movie, the more I'm okay with the route they chose to go with for his character. When he's explaining everything that happened in Thor 2, he breaks down several times. And I really like this scene because it once again shows just how much Thor has been hiding his pain inside him and how much his gradual losses have weighed on him over the years. Really, huge shout out to Chris Hemsworth's performance because he was able to, I feel like he was able to show a new layer of vulnerability with Thor being at his lowest low in this movie. So they all have their missions and their teams. Hulk has to go retrieve the Time Stone. Captain America, Iron Man, Ant-Man, they all had to go and get the spear with the Mind Stone and also the Tesseract. Nebula and War Machine had off on Vormir to get the Power Stone, and Clint and my girl Natasha has to go and get the Soul Stone. Ain't that something? I really like the scene between Hulk and the Ancient One because it shows the Marvel universe was already that expanded, they just didn't know it yet at the time of the original Avengers. And I feel like they also did a better job in this scene explaining how time travel works than when they first set off on their mission. Hulk straight up one-ups the girl mentally though. He's like, wait, if you're the keeper of the stone, why'd Strange just give it away? And she's like, oh, maybe I made a mistake. Hulk was being genuine, but he got her, man. She just let him have it. That was great. So Iron Man, Ant-Man, and Cap go to retrieve the spear and the Tesseract. And I love them redoing all the previous scenes from the original Avengers. That's kind of a theme in the second act of the movie. At this point in the movie, I realized this was basically just a museum of greatest Marvel scenes that they were redoing. And that's when I realized this movie was a tribute to everything the MCU was this far. A lot of stuff happened in this New York sequence, but definitely my favorite part was the Cat v Cat fight. The fight choreography was amazing. Their banter back and forth was hilarious. He's like, I can do this all day. And he's like, yeah, I know. But 2012 Avengers Steve has current Steve in a chokehold, right? And then he just goes like, Bucky is alive. He's like, what did you say? And I saw somewhere in some random comment, he's like, wow, Captain America just Martha'd himself. As soon as you say that one name, just everything goes right for you, apparently. So they ended up getting the spear, but Loki ended up getting away with the Tesseract, so they had to go back to 1970 to get more Pym particles for time travel and get back the Tesseract. And this is where Tony Stark meets his father. This is maybe my favorite couple scenes in the movie as far as the non-action scenes, because Tony Stark has had the demon of his father in the back of his head for so long now. His daddy issues have been a mainstay of his character for many movies at this point, and it was so satisfying to finally see him reconnect and resonate with that part of his psyche. Especially since Tony Stark was a dad at this point, he was able to relate to and understand his father so much better. He said at the end of the scene, he's like, at the grand scheme of things, yeah, my dad was tough, but looking back, I only see the good things. They hug it out, and it's just like, yes, that's exactly what I needed. That was great. And, of course, the final Stan Lee cameo, make love, not war. I like that. So we go back to the Dark World, and Thor and Rocket have to snip out the Power Stone, or the Reality Stone, from Natalie Portman, and this was also a great set of sequences. For the same reason of Tony Stark meeting his dad, Thor got to reconnect with his mom in this scene, and those were a lot of really touching scenes. She reassures Thor that because of his failure with Thanos, that he's human. Well, not exactly human, but he is flawed like everyone else, and that's okay. Thor was straight up having a panic attack before going in, and I love Rocket's little little pep talk he gave him. He's like, you can do this, because I lost everyone I had loved too. I lost Rocket, Groot, Drax, the chick with the antenna. I just love it. Rocket is one of my favorite characters in these movies. So they get the reality stone, and right before they're about to skedaddle to the present, Thor remembers. He's like, wait a minute, it's 2013. I still have Mjolnir. He gets the hammer back, and I love the moment where he finally gets his hammer back, because this was the first time we're like, okay, Thor, we remember why he's an actual god and everything. It's the moment where we first see Thor start to pick himself back up, and when the smile and the laugh he gets on his face is just great. So anyway, we cut back to Vormir, and Nebula and War Machine have to get the Power Stone, and I love them showing from a different perspective the first scene of Guardians of the Galaxy where Star-Lord is singing all to Come and Get Your Love. But anyway, they knock Quill out and they get the Power Stone, and right before they're about to get back to the present, Nebula decides to have a meltdown because past Nebula is being analyzed by Thanos, and apparently across time itself their memories are linked? I'm not gonna lie, upon multiple rewatches, I hate these scenes more and more. It just leaves so much unexplained. Why doesn't Nebula have an airplane mode or something like that where she can just cut herself off? How are the duplicates' memories linked throughout time? There's just so much they don't explain. So Nebula gets stuck in the past and War Machine goes to go out. They got the Power Stone, moving on. Oh man, they saved the gut punch for last. Hawkeye and Nat had to go to the one planet to get the Soul Stone, and oh my goodness, this scene hurts. It doesn't get better with 3 rewatches. It hurt every time. There's so much good in this scene, from Hawkeye and Nat finally getting their farewell to each other, the friendship that they've had over all these movies finally coming to a close, and the fact that they actually spar one last time and fight each other to see who sacrifices themselves. Dang, man. If that ain't love, I don't know what is. The Black Widow gets to sacrifice herself, and that's great because people have been saying for the longest that Black Widow isn't relevant enough in these movies, but now she helped save the universe. What you gotta say about that? I love how the scene plays out like a direct mirror to when Thanos had to do the same thing, because Thanos, yeah, he had to sacrifice his daughter and he loved her, but it's not the same as when you're doing this for a conquest of the galaxy versus we're doing this for the good of the whole world. And this is my best friend also. So there was, in the music too, the music is the exact same, so it really reminds you of when Thanos had to do the same thing. I love the contrast between those two scenes. But regardless, the mission is done. They have all the stones. They decide they can't let Black Widow's sacrifice be in vain. And they put all the stones in the Iron Man gauntlet, and at that point, when I saw those stones going into the Iron Man gauntlet, I didn't know when. I was like, oh my god, Tony's gonna get the stones. So they have a little squabble on who gets to wear the glove, and Thor steps up to the plate. I love how he does it. He just wants to do something right. He just wants to redeem himself after failing so big in Infinity War. But Hulk decides that it's his job to do it because the radiation from the glove is mostly gamma, which is what turns him into the Hulk. So he feels like he was made to do it. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good comic book reference there. So Banner finally puts on the glove and he goes, Hulk! Snap! He doesn't actually say that, but it's more or less what happens. And then they see half the life has returned to the universe. It's all fine and dandy, right? No, because past Nebula had to freaking bring 2014 Thanos back to the present to wreak havoc. His ship explodes, it blows the Avengers facility to the ground, and then everyone's fine somehow. So this is it, right? The final battle. Thanos has come to Earth, and basically Hawkeye's playing keep away with the Infinity Gauntlet underground. And yeah. Also, future Nebula kills past Nebula, and she's still okay. I know they said several times that it's affecting the past doesn't change the future, but how? How is it just... I'm not going to question the time travel logic in this movie, because I just give myself a headache. So it's 2014 Thanos versus the big three, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. The three of them squad up. I love the shots leading up to them just walking towards Thanos. Thor dual wields.
The world has spoken.
Oh boy. When I saw that lightning coming, it gets both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. Oh my goodness, that was so hype. But we learned a little bit more about 2014 Thanos. Basically, since he invaded future Nebula's memories and he saw that he would indeed do what he set out to do, he changes his goal. No longer is he after bringing balance to the universe by eliminating half-life. He realizes, okay, even if I go on and do that, there's still going to be people like the Avengers who remember what happened and try to stop him. He decides he needs to start over then, creating a new world so the people in that new world only remember what they've been given instead of what's been taken away. And I've had a couple conversations already when they think 2014 Thanos is less of a cool villain, he's more of a traditional villain than Infinity War Thanos because of this. I disagree with this for several reasons. For one, Thanos had to change his plans because when he sees that he does what he's gonna do in the future, he also sees it doesn't work in the way he wants it to. He's not going to have the grateful universe that he wanted. Second of all, of course 2014 Endgame Thanos is going to seem more shallow as a villain because it's not his movie. You barely get to step in his shoes in his mind. Infinity War was a movie just about Thanos mostly, and this movie is more about the Avengers and the heroes themselves. But anyway, they all squad up to take on Thanos, and then the fight starts. Thor dual wields, and then they just get to it. Oh my goodness. This fight was amazing. It was definitely the one I most look forward to upon the rewatches. I went into Endgame thinking, wait a minute, Iron Man kinda held his own when Thanos had the Infinity Stone, so if he has Cap and Thor's help, it's free. It's a winning matchup. But the narrator stepped in and said, but it was not free. Thanos is a conqueror, he's a destroyer. If you watch the death battle on some of this dude's feats, it's kinda crazy what he can do. And he doesn't enter the fight empty-handed either. He got this Darth Maul dual spinning blade that he can throw and it whips back at him like a boomerang. It's crazy. It's kind of like the offensive version of Cap's shield. Speaking of Cap's shield, that thing gets busted. Thanos just wails on it and it just breaks, it was kind of like the payoff of Tony's vision in Age of Ultron and what she saw the shield kind of shattered. So Iron Man's knocked out, Thor's getting his butt handed to him, and Cap has a broken shield. And then the tides turn when Cap freaking gets the hammer. Another moment where no matter who I'm watching this movie with, the whole theater just starts cheering. Such a great moment. And then Thor just looks at him like, I knew it, I knew he was worthy. Why he was able to wield it this time instead of in Age of Ultron and other times is because the main theory at least is now that he doesn't have the guilt on his conscience of holding back the secret that Bucky killed Tony Stark's parents, that's why he's worthy now. I can't confirm or deny that's the reason, but it's the theory that makes the most sense so far. So Cap decides he wants to start playing Marvel vs. Capcom 3. He starts doing air combos, whipping the hammer. He uses the shield like a boomerang. He throws the hammer at the shield, it bounces off, he catches them back both. It's just a dope fight. Even with the hammer, Thanos starts bringing in the punches back and it starts looking bad, and then on your left, Cap gets the message and everyone starts coming back. And oh my goodness, they did a good job of letting Black Panther get the first entrance. That was definitely in good taste. The music kicks in, all the Avengers come back in, and Cap finally says the words. He delivers the line perfectly. The Avengers have indeed assembled. The music kicks on and they all charge into battle, and it's just a great time. There's too many great moments to count in this fight, from Thor or from Spider-Man finally activating instant kill mode and him riding Mjolnir as they're trying to get the gauntlet back in the time machine. Spider-Man finally reuniting with Tony Stark, and then the same thing with Peter and Gamora. I absolutely loved it when Thor accidentally caught the hammer and Cap caught the axe, and they're like, no, you get the little one, let's switch. This fight was just everything you need in a third act climax on this scale. It was absolutely amazing. One thing people keep coming back to is when Spider-Man got the gauntlet and Nebula and Gamora and Captain Marvel and all them start closing in. They do like a girl power shot where all the female superheroes are in the same shot together and they walk towards the camera. Some have called this forced, some have called it gratuitous. I didn't mind it because, like one of my friends said who saw it twice with me, he's like, I didn't even notice they had an all-girl power shot. If you can have something like that for the female fans in particular, but it's still subtle enough to fly over some of the audience members' heads, I thought that was alright. Especially since the second time I watched it, there was a lady sitting next to me, and when that girl power shot happened, she was like, yes, finally. And it was just like a genuinely satisfied reaction. It wasn't cringy at all. I was like, okay, if you're giving that to the female fans, let them have their moment, because that's what this last fight is about, right? Everyone gets their moment. Brie Larson comes back in. She thinks she's the hot crap for going toe-to-toe with Thanos. She stops him from snapping his fingers. That was pretty dope. But then when they're struggling for the gauntlet, Thanos rips the Power Stone from the gauntlet and wham, smacks Brie Larson right back into the kitchen. I wish I was Thanos in that moment, man. I just want to... she's just the worst.
It's just that you're just not that strong.
But amidst all the chaos, Thanos gets the gauntlet back and tries to snap his fingers, but once Iron Man sees Doctor Strange hold up the one, just like, yo, this is it. This is the one future where we win. He swoops in, somehow swaps his own Iron Man gauntlet with Thanos's, and he gets all the stones back. Thanos thinks he's the hot crap by saying, I am inevitable, and then doing the pseudo snap, and then Tony just goes like, and everyone on Thanos' side gets snapped out of existence, and Thanos doesn't even get last words, bro. Everyone was like, nah, Thanos, you've done enough, cuz you don't get last words. So the battle's wrapping up, and Tony, it's the snapping the fingers is too much for his mortal body to weigh, so he ends up dying, and it's just such some sad and emotional scene. And I love that all his closest friends, his wife, his best friend, his surrogate son, they're all there to share last words with him. And Pepper tells him, you can rest now. And I love that line because Tony has done so much for this universe. Tony and Robert Downey Jr. have done so much for the character and for the universe, both in the series and in real life. So I absolutely love that you can rest now line as a callback to earlier in the movie. And it's poetic. It's so poetic that Tony's last words were his declaration that ended the first Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I am Iron Man. What poetry there. Wow, I love it. So Tony makes a heartfelt send-off to his daughter and his family through a pre-recording, and then they have a funeral for him, and it's all a great time. The kid standing in the back, most people are pretty sure that's the kid he helped save in Iron Man 3. It's pretty cool that he's a little bit older and paying his respects. And several times, that funeral scene is really hard to get through because as they're panning to every different set of heroes, you're just like, wow, this is what they built. This is what Marvel did, and it all started with Iron Man. It was really heartfelt to see all the heroes in one setting like that in a non-battle context. It just made it more emotional for me. Nick Fury makes a little cameo. I found it a little weird the first time that he doesn't get any speaking lines in the movie, but now that Stan Lee's gone, I guess Nick Fury's the king of cameos. It wasn't really his place to say anything at that moment, so okay. So now that Tony's gone and everyone's back to where they started, Peter Parker goes back to school, everyone's back with their family. Cap has to go and put back the Power Stones, the Infinity Stones, back in their place, right? He says one last goodbye to both Bucky and Falcon, and he goes back in time to put the stones back, but it ended up staying in the past in one of the alternate timelines to live out a family life with Peggy Carter. Comes back as an old man, and he decides to pass on the role of Captain America to Sam Wilson. That's right. Going forward, Captain America's a black man. I'm totally okay with that. I don't know about y'all, but I am. So yeah, they have one more heartfelt exchange, and Steve basically goes like, okay, now the shield is yours. Now you can get in touch with your true identity, your true self. From this point forward, you will be called Captain Falcon. He doesn't actually let him say that, but we do in fact see that he did get his dance with Peggy, thus concluding this section of the Marvel Universe. I really like the different directions they're taking the characters. Thor gets to be a Guardian of the Galaxy now, Captain America is now a black man, and, you know, Tony Stark's daughter, Ant-Man's daughter is grown up, so she could be a superhero like she is in the comics, and, you know, Tony Stark's daughter is gonna grow up, so they could do like a Young Avengers type movie in the future. That would be pretty cool. So those are my overall spoiler-filled thoughts on Avengers Endgame. Thank you so much for sticking around this far into the video. This is definitely the longest video I've ever done, so yeah, what a ride, right? Make sure you hit that subscribe and like button down below. Comment also what was your favorite moment of the movie overall. And as always, I am Pac. Thanks so much for hearing my perspective, and I'm out for now.